I'm an optimist. Not in the kind of toxic, miss me with the heavy stuff or the got no time for downers kind of way. I'm a leftist. Material conditions, analysis, realism. Recognising that things suck is like half of our whole deal, the other half being trying to make it better. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't hard at times. I'm pretty open about my mental health issues. Probably too much at times. But hey, oversharing is a symptom of them, so yay, go team! I bring that up because I'm asked surprisingly often, why? Why am I so political? Why do I care so much? The overly simplistic answer, which covers the nuances with a broad, self-important brush, is that I don't want anyone to suffer the way I have. But that's not quite right. It's so broad and dilutive an answer that it's almost wrong. I mean, it's not wrong, obviously, but the full answer's going to take that long. So let me tell you about my hope. Love. In spite of everything. Yeah, this is going to be an optimistic video, I promise. But I'm gonna talk about some heavy-ass stuff that I've experienced. So do be careful of your own mental well-being around some of these subjects. I'll put in content warnings when there's mentions of specific things too. Sorry about all the acronyms, but YouTube. I'll put a glossary in as the pinned comment. Also, brief important bit here at the start, I want to make it very clear that no one's trauma is more or less valid. All of it affects us. It's very common for someone to think that theirs isn't that bad, and thinking that does nothing but hurt you. You're important, your pain is valid, and you deserve the care and support that trauma responses are trying to deny you. Okay, on with the show. I love life, nature, plants in bloom, birds flying, the sounds of a thicket on a summer's day. It gives me unbridled joy. It's kind of cringy how much I start beaming and cooing in excitement over a neat bug I've just stumbled across. The other day I found a tiny little goth snail. Look, goth snail! Anyway, goth snail asks for you to like, comment and subscribe, as well as consider donating to Kiri's Patreon or enjoying her exclusive content. Goth snail points to the links in the description. Yeah, thank you, goth snail. The joy I get from the everything is something that's noticeably increased in recent times. Theoretically, that's a sign of improvement, but I know how much turmoil still resides within me. At very least, it's a sign for the capacity of improvement. I feel that's also a good barometer for society at large, too. The more that we all can experience joy without guilt or shame, the better society is. I'd love to say that HRT, the gym and stuff have been some kind of silver bullet on my issues, but it hasn't been. They've helped a lot, definitely, but brain stuff is still brain stuff. I find it honestly kinda hard to believe that some people seemingly don't have some kind of mental illness going on. For one thing, mental, healthiness or normality is such an abstract, arbitrary concept, defined only by the people who are paid to define it, based on what the hegemonic idea of normality is. That push towards a constructed ideal of the good citizen and life generally under capitalism gives trauma to all of us, whether we register it or not. That's all besides the point of this, though. People that don't have brain stuff going on that they feel is worth declaring or whatnot exist, and that's cool for them. That sounds a lot meaner than I meant it. Honestly, I'm glad you're doing okay. I'm legitimately happy for you. My last suicide attempt was 6 years ago, give or take. That's the longest I've been in my entire adult life. My idealism is part of why it's lasted, because, yes, I still have my issues, but I can dream of a better world. Better than that, I know my world is possible. And that's the first key to making it real. Realising that it's possible. A lot of people will shit on people dreaming and talking about what they want the world to be. What their version of utopia looks like. But they're wrong to do so. All of us have some idea of what a better world could be, and that care is needed for it. For a cool Che Guevara quote,
"At the risk of seeming ridiculous, let me say that the true revolutionary is guided by a great feeling of love. It is impossible to think of a genuine revolutionary lacking this quality."
I'd imagine that everyone here at least shares the ideal that everyone should be free, should have the needs taken care of, that their life should be their own, not dictated by labour, for the free pursuit of their dreams. Or at least part of that, because that's my dream. What really caught me when I was but a baby anarchist of 7 years ago was when I was reading this, The Conquest of Bread by Peter Kropotkin. It's the idea of the universal right of well-being. Something that goes beyond material needs, because they'd necessarily be well in the bag for this to happen. The right of well-being deals with those more intangible needs we have, along with the right of luxury for all.
All is for all. If the man and the woman bear their fair share of work, they have a right to their fair share of all that is produced by all, and that share is enough to secure them well-being. No more of such vague formulas as the right to work, or to each the whole result of his labor. What we proclaim is the right to well-being for all.
This is the final form of my desire to help people, of care. Care is something that has to be taught out of us in this world. The various failures to replicate the Stanford prison experiment show this to be true. The cruelty depicted in that first famous one only happened because the subjects were trained to show that cruelty. They were told to do so, and a lot of them objected and fought back against it anyway.
So we can assume that the guards were not role-playing according to social stereotypes of how guards act in a real prison, but rather according to the cues pointing to the experimental hypotheses, the experimenter's expectations, and possibly the experimenter's ideological commitment, as presumed by Banu Azizi and Movahedi, 1975, page 156. In reality, the guards were following instructions and guidelines.
I'm hardly alone in having a young life that did its best to try and strip it away from me. Maybe it's because of those attempts that I cling on to the notion of care so strongly now. Because various things tried bloody hard to rip it away from me. Childhood was not a great time for me. Corporal punishment was the norm. Not that it was out of the norm in general in the 90s in the UK. However, I may have had it a little bit differently. Look, I know I hide it very well, subtlety being my claim to fame and all. But I am actually, in fact, trans of gender. I came out in 2016. Good job. Something good came out that year. I didn't first come out then, in 2016. I didn't first come out 2 years before then either. Or 2012, 2010, 2009, 2005. The first time I remember for definite coming out, I was 5 years old. Doing so was seen as an aberration, something to be rectified, to be corrected. Corporal punishment was the norm. From there, I guess everything that was outside of my parents' conception of normal was a threat. What if that came back? I guess was the rationale. I remember smuggling Pokemon cards into the house. Not even the collectible card game. Just cards with pictures of Pokemon on. Pokemon was seen as an aberration. For around a week after they found them, I was limping. Corporal punishment was the norm. Wrestling, something I do and fucking adore to do now. I only caught snippets of when I was sure I had an opportunity. The retribution I experienced against that has kept me from it until I was in my fucking 30s. The zenith of this is a bit different, however. It was their absolute refusal to believe me when I told them that I was being raped. The thing is, I like people, in the abstract at least. People are great. We contain such infinite capacity for kindness. Trust? That's a different issue. I try, though. It's a reciprocal thing, and I know that. I'm not very good at doing that, though. Oversharing the least painful things is unfair on someone. It's just hard to deal with because it's become such an unconscious response. My other issue with actually fostering trust has been brought up in every form of therapy I've been in. Flippancy and over-intellectualization. Both are trauma responses. They're attempts to endear myself to people. Where that harms trust is inadvertently demeaning experiences that are shared, removing their seriousness either by dark jokes people may never be okay to hear, or I'm striving for grandiose statements that encompass everything in a sweeping stroke of rhetoricism. That alienates people, losing any personal connection. Recovery is a lifelong process. I'm still learning things about myself every day. I want to be better for the people around me, and I know doing that will make my life better too. I'm probably always going to have trust issues, however. The first time I'm sure of, I was 8 years old? An older kid, though only by a few years. Someone I trusted, someone I thought was a friend. I remember him telling me every time it happened that I was gonna be the woman. So at least someone believed me about something back then. That was dark, even by my standards. I'm not angry at him. That may seem odd, but I don't even think of him. What still cuts me from then is the betrayal of those that should have been caring for me. The realisation that I'd never be believed. Any issue I had was trivial at best, or worthy of punishment for causing a fuss. The internal doubt and disgust at myself I learnt from then has taken years to ease. And I say ease because it's never gone away. It's kind of crazy how many of the best people I know have such self-esteem issues. I mean, I do too, but I'm not on their level, right? Oh god, is this a self-esteem issue thingy? Ugh. My self-esteem, whilst it's still not great, shall we say, has improved immensely. Part of that is wrestling. Seeing tangible improvements in my skill and talent in doing something I love. Another thing that's helped has been making my exclusive content. This isn't just me shilling that, by the way, although you should check out my link tree in the description. But having people willing to pay money to admire my form is a bit of a boost. Because although I know intellectually I can be hot at times, I still struggle to think that anyone could find this pretty. Again, you can legitimately help with that and my financial situation by checking those links. There's daily pictures and monthly videos. There's also a Patreon, which is more expressly for supporting these videos, the leftist analysis, video essays. There's no nudity on my Patreon, but there are monthly vlogs. Get your name in the credits, early access to videos and scripts, and a thing I'm doing with cassette tapes. Liking the video, commenting on it, subscribing to the channel are free things you can do that helps out too. Seriously, thank you for all the support. Look, this is legit a bit about self-esteem, right? Sorry it turned into an ad read. Part of the job. One bastard trick society plays on self-esteem is tying it to capitalist notions of value and transaction. And obviously I haven't got past that either. We are all infinitely more valuable than what capitalism tells us we are. Made-up instruction tokens, symbols of debt, have no bearing on the intrinsic qualities of each of us. Driving our self-worth through the lens of what we can produce, how exploitable we are, destroys us, and it sets us up for abuse. I haven't been in a relationship in nigh on a decade. Very few of the ones I have been in were what you could consider healthy. But the worst one was not even romantic. He was someone I considered, at the time at least, to be my best friend. I've spoken briefly about him before in a previous video. He was the one that beat the shit out of me when I came out as bi to him. Truly a wonderful human being, that one. That wasn't the first time he left me bleeding, barely conscious on the pavement, and it wasn't the last either. The thing about abuse is it's so hard to recognise it as such when it's happening to you. Liking someone gives you an incentive to excuse their behaviour, and it isolates you. That isolation makes it worse. The amount of people that could help gets smaller as the situation exacerbates. I held out hope that things could be better, but they never were. The last time I saw him was not very long after I came out as trans. I bumped into him at a pub. He initially seemed vaguely supportive, surprisingly. That was until he started groping me. I never want to see him again. I don't wish him harm, though. I don't want him imprisoned because carceral punishment is nothing but torture we're told is justified. And we can't pretend that it ever is. If we can justify dehumanising one person, then we can find justifications for dehumanising anybody. Everybody. It's literally fascist reasoning. What I want is for the flashbacks to stop. And him rotting away as a state-recognised non-person will not do that. I want him out of my goddamn head. I don't want him dead. I want him to get the help that he needs. To realise the myriad ways he perpetuates harm, and to learn how to heal instead. I don't know if that will ever happen. I doubt it, frankly. But I hope so. I just want him out of my goddamn head. This is something which is obviously dehumanising in shit. But one of the most annoying things for me about being labelled broken by society is this assumed lack of agency. That any power I had was stripped away by the flick of a psychiatrist's pen. And to an unfortunate extent, that's true. But there's a beautiful thing with being labelled as broken. Bonding with everyone else that's been labelled defective too. The love and understanding that can exist between us is immense. Talking to someone else who understands is freeing, exhilarating. An opportunity to put down that mental load of trying not to be too weird around people is better than taking your bra off when you finally get home, or finally sitting down and taking your boots off after being out all day. Generally, for me, both those things happen within seconds of each other. That community that can just spontaneously spark from meeting someone is a truly beautiful thing, truly powerful thing. Connections build us, and when we're isolated for whatever reason, those connections are lifelines. I have borderline personality disorder, and considering all that, I doubt it's particularly surprising. People with BPD are far more likely to be survivors of abuse. And yeah, that tracks. Being hurt so much by people I've trusted, liked, loved even, hasn't given me the firmest grasp on how to people, especially with those I like. I'm cloying, overfamiliar, intense. The more I like someone, the worse I am. I used to put this down to solely being desperate for connection, which it's not that, but I've realised recently that it's more of a trauma response. It's my brain pushing them away so that they can't hurt me too. It's learnt that people I love hurt me. It's trying not to give them a chance. This happened recently with someone I really like. Really cool, geeky, caring, knowledgeable. We've got shared interests, similar tastes, but different enough to keep things interesting. Yeah, I had a crush on her. I still do. That trauma response went off hard. And it did its job. It wasn't like I was expecting us to elope off together, off into the sunset in a U-Haul van. Just a friend. Just a friend would have been nice. Any potential of what could have been squandered. A few hurtful words. I hope it's salvageable. I really do, but I'm not sure. The thing about trauma is that it's not solitary. It harms everyone. The flip side of that is that healing those scars isn't solitary either. There's a reason therapy functions the way it does currently. We can't do that alone. At least, not without the wounds turning toxic. Of course, there's a massive problem with therapy, recovery and stuff in our society. They're not designed to actually help us. Anything like that is a happy side effect. The purpose of mental health care under capitalism is to get people back to a state where they are exploitable again, not healthy. To that end, access to this care is heavily gatekept and strictly regimented. There's basically 3 paths. There's underfunded, inadequate care that takes years to even initially access. There's carceral care, psych wards, and mental health units. These are overwhelmingly populated by demographics demonised by society. In the UK, and I imagine the same is true for the rest of the imperial core, that's people of colour, or at least not seen as sufficiently white, and queer, mostly trans people. And lastly, there's nothing. Just cruel apathy. People on this path are overwhelmingly unhoused and in the most dire need of help. If we consider how much mental health is trauma and how traumatic it is to be targeted by society, that's called a feedback loop. To break that loop of pain, we need to demonstrate those fundamental parts of humanity, to meet those universal needs of everyone. We all need care, support, and love. So, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. Okay, so what is love? That seems like such an odd question. We understand that mutual compassion and warm fuzzy feelings, right? Well, love isn't just that. Like Bell Hooks says, it's an act.
Will also implies choice. We do not have to love. We choose to love. When we understand love as the will to nurture our own and another's spiritual growth, it becomes clear that we cannot claim to love if we are hurtful and abusive. Love and abuse cannot coexist.
And there lies the crux of my confusion. I haven't experienced mutual nurturing without abuse. I want to. I think we all want to. I don't mean that in any amatonormative way, because love isn't just sexual or romantic. This is nurture. This is compassion, connection. We all attempt to do this, and the effort we all put in makes it worthwhile. Under the relentless pressures of capitalism, of the oppressive forces of governance, things that try to pry us apart, that lie to us about rugged individualism, that blame the problems they give us on some nebulous dem. Acts of kindness, of care, nurture, support, acts of love. True non-transactional love. The love that is sharing ourselves with others, to lift them up. These things are radical. These things are revolutionary. And we do these things all the time. Consciously or not, we refute the apathetic, callous greed our society cruelly rewards, and we do this all the time. That is why I care. That is why I have such hope. Love, in spite of everything. Hello, yes, it's me, and don't worry about the sudden marked decrease in video quality. That's because I'm recording this on my webcam far later than I should have done. Anyway, thank you so much for watching all of this video and getting to this point. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have, then please consider liking the video, commenting on it, and subscribing to the channel. That helps a lot. And if you want to go a bit further and join these fine people, you can join my Patreon, where you'll get early access to things and stuff that I do and help make me survive so that I can make these things. That's the key point of that, me surviving, hooray. On that topic as well, there's also the exclusive content that I mentioned maybe a couple of times in the video. The link for that's in the link tree as well. There's a free site and a premium site. The free is like pay as you go, kind of. Yeah, you'll see. And thank you to my contributors for their fine, lovely voices, who are John the Duncan, Jessie Jenda, Mika, and Anra. Thank you so much. I'm honoured that you'd do that for me, so thank you. And I do promise that the next one is going to be lighter than this one was. Like, internally I started calling it the video essay that kills me, specifically, instantly, because I have had some real sad girl hours putting this shit together. Thank you. Anyway, and here's a little outtake from when I was doing the psychiatry bit. I love you. I don't wear glasses normally. I got these ages ago because I used to work an office job and to try and help with migraines from staring at a screen all fucking day. And they're having the opposite effect now. Ow. Fun. Things we do for the aesthetic, eh?